Greetings ladies and gents, and welcome to this new type of video. This is the epic surprise that I was talking about earlier in my previous videos. I like to read stories from across the internet, and this is an HFY story called They Used FTL for What? Posted by Random 3X. Prelate Admiral Vectist was called to the bridge of his Calonti-class destroyer, the flagship of the Imperial Navy of the Clixius. He'd been told by a nervous-looking officer that they were being hailed by an admiral of the human naval force. He couldn't help but exhale a wary sigh. The Empire had started a war with the humans over resource rights of a sector, and the battles had devolved since then. Much to the surprise of the Clixius, the humans were putting up a harder fight than anyone expected. The Admiral himself had always been a proponent that the Empire's military forces had grown too complacent. He and many other military academy graduates had even reveled in the chance to gain battle honors. But to be woken up in the middle of the night cycle to address a human admiral was tiring as could be.
Admiral, I apologize for waking you at such an hour,
his sniveling first mate said. The man had a disposition that would make even a small fluffy harung seem as valiant as a liard. I was told the human admiral had called up on open comms.
Yes, sir. They're patiently waiting on hold,
he confirmed. Sensors, officer. Can we detect them? No, sir. The sensors are detecting many relays. The cowards are likely not even in the system. Typical, the admiral muttered. Humans never fought in a direct attacks and continued with what they called guerrilla tactics, often ambushing and running away before the honorable warriors could retaliate. Though it pained him, the admiral did have to commend them, as the tactic did work. His calls for them to use tactic in return had been dismissed out of hand by the War Council. Confident in the idea, the Empire would whittle down any human resistance given enough time. Did the human explain his purpose for contacting us?
No, sir,
the comms officer replied.
He only said that he would only speak to the highest-ranking officer.
Suspicious, as the Admiral muttered as he stroked his thin Lexus. Bring it up, and I shall ascertain their purpose. At his order, a holographic display lit up before him, and there, in a projected commander's seat, was a human. To his eyes, the human race appeared frightfully ugly. Something about them not genetically engineering symmetry disturbed many of the inexperienced crew. He, however, was an academy graduate, so he wouldn't let the hideousness of the human projector before him bring up his protein packet. Are you the highest-ranking officer? The human asked. Indeed. I am Prelate Admiral Vectist of the Empire, one of the few exalted amongst my race, the Admiral replied. Ah, perfect. Our intel told us some bigwig was with this battle group, but it's hard to tell. Confirm with your own peoples and all, the human replied, flashing his teeth in the threat gesture. Why are you contacting us? To surrender, I suppose? The Admiral asked. Surrender? Heavens no, the human replied as he chuckled. We have a few new toys and wanted to show them off, but you don't use a cannon to kill a mouse. The human held his grasping appendages upwards and moved its shoulders in upward motion. The Admiral remembered a part of his enemy's studies that identified this gesture as a shrug, which roughly meant, I guess. So you wish to battle? Yes, I suppose we do. Mind we have a good old scrap? The human asked as he balled its grasping appendages and made a circular motions. Very well. We shall engage you in a proper fight. None of your attack and run, the Admiral replied, hoping to gain the honor of the first real fight in the war. Of course, no running. We have a few new toys. Between you and me, when we use them, we can't run for a little bit. The human explained as it tilted its head and closed one of its eyes. So, where shall we face inglorious battle? Oh, don't worry about it. We'll come to you, he replied as the communications abruptly cut off. Quickly realizing the meaning behind his words, the Admiral slammed a button to call a high alert to the entire battle group. The humans were on their way to attack them.
Sir, we have detecting gravitational anomalies,
the sensor officer declared. This was good. It meant that the human was using the FTL to drop its system. It seemed the humans were true to his words. In a few of the wrecks that they had studied, the engineers had confirmed that the humans' FTL drives were horribly inefficient. They required a long recharge time between uses, and the return to normal space caused severe gravitational anomalies that could be easily detected. This was part of why the humans had stuck with ambushes. "What is the heading?" the Admiral asked the comms officer.
"Straight ahead," the sensors officer replied, sounding panicked. "Sir, get the shields up! They're dropping in directly!"
The sensors officer was unable to finish his sentence, as a dozen human cruisers appeared directly above the Admiral's fleet. It was, as he looked on, he couldn't help but feel horror. It was common knowledge that FTL travel had to have the gravity compensated for. It was why the Clixius used an anti-reality bubble. But this human had actually weaponized the return to normal space. Appearing above each of his ships were micro-black holes caused by the infinite mass the human ships had generated with their own FTL drives. His escort ships had been shredded, while the human ships that, through some insane engineering, had shunted the micro-black holes behind their engines were now charging towards their undefended ships. Worse still, they were above his ship, oriented by his perspective, upside down. Looking at the ship approaching his, he could see the cannons were already pointed upwards, and the time it would take to reorient his own point defense cannons would be too long. "Sir, they have begun shredding our armor," the engineering officer declared, though the reality is he didn't need to. The view outside his bridge was a sight to behold. Those humans weaponized their own substandard FTL drives. I wonder if we'll actually stand a chance now. The Admiral's last words were all that were able to be recovered from the wreckage of his flagship. The battle, which was more of a one-sided slaughter, would become known as the turning point in the war between humanity and the Clixius. End of story. I'd like to inform everybody that there is a new legendary member of our community, England, who has taken the Tier 6 position on Patreon, which is also known as the Highlander tier, which is going to be one at a time, and that is $1,000 a month. It is truly a legend for this. Thank you very much for the support. Now, hopefully you enjoy this new type of video. If you do, let me know down below. If you don't, let me know down below. And all the usual YouTube stuff. Okay, I'd quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, Dragzoon WRE, Holly Sister, Ambrose Cattell, and Quantum Wednesday. Thank you very much.